everything will change in their life. So to me, if someone is willing to do something differently, even if they don't believe it, but if they're really willing to do it, that's better to me than someone who believes it but never does it. So I'd rather have someone skeptical say, I don't really know if this is going to work, but okay, I'll start meditating twice a day for the next 6 weeks and see what happens. I'd much rather have that person, because I'm completely convinced that that person will see a change, than someone says, oh sure, I believe that quieting my mind twice a day would help me, but not doing it. So, if you can make the changes without having the commitment, fine. Most people, we find that feeling some inspiration that there is an achievable goal helps to drive the behaviors which ultimately take it out of belief and into experience. Because you're only going to believe something so long. If the belief doesn't actually manifest the outcome, you're going to stop believing it. But if you do something for enough time, and now you start to actually feel the difference, then you don't need to believe it anymore. Now you know it because you're living it on a day-to-day basis.
Step 2 is experiencing deep rest. Okay? Now everybody knows that if you sleep well the night before, if you slept well last night, then when you wake up in the morning, you feel refreshed. You feel good. On the other hand, if you're up really late and you are partying and you have a hangover this morning, then your body doesn't feel that good. So deep rest is the basis of rejuvenation. When you're in sleep, your body renews itself. It's an opportunity for your body to renew itself. There are two kinds of deep rest. The first one is something we call the restful state of sleep awareness, or restful sleep. Here's a mantra you can do that starts a very specific vibration in your consciousness that is conducive to sleep. And this mantra has been used for thousands of years. So say it along with me. Say Om, Agasti, Shaina. Om, Agasti, Shaina. Om, Agasti, Shaina. Now close your eyes and feel your body as you say it. Om, Agasti, Shaina. Keep saying it. Om, Agasti, Shaina. Om, Agasti, Shaina. Now just say it mentally, silently, and feel it vibrating through your body. Om, Agasti, Shaina. And now you can open your eyes. So at night when you're sleeping, lying in bed, start this mantra, let it vibrate in your consciousness, have the idea it's vibrating in your body, and you'll see this is a mantra that's been tried for thousands of years to induce sleep. It'll slowly put you into that very beautiful, restful sleep state. And by the way, just remember that even if you don't fall asleep, even let's say you don't fall asleep, don't worry about not falling asleep. Okay? Because one of the things that keeps people awake at night is that they are worrying about being awake at night. So the worry itself keeps them awake at night. So have this attitude, lying in bed with your eyes closed, have the attitude that even if I don't fall asleep, just lying here repeating this mantra, I'm getting the same benefit as I would get from sleep. Have that attitude because it's true. If you lie down, close your eyes and repeat this mantra silently, the benefit you'll get from it is the same as sleep. And so if you don't have anxiety about sleep, you'll fall asleep. The biggest thing that keeps people awake at night is that they have too much anxiety about sleep. Okay, next kind of deep rest is restful awareness. Restful awareness is the state that causes our body to rejuvenate. Many years ago, I became aware of a study that was done by some of my colleagues that showed that people who meditate regularly twice a day for 20 minutes, just 20 minutes twice a day, their biological age is 12 years younger than their chronological peers. So let's say I take you and I teach you meditation, and I don't teach meditation to someone who's the same age, and you practice twice a day, 20 minutes twice a day for 5 years, and the other person doesn't, And at the end of it, we measure biological age, you'll be 12 years younger than the other person. Now, if you could do something for 20 minutes twice a day, and it slowed down your biological age by that much in 5 years, why wouldn't you want to do it? Especially if it didn't cost you anything.
We can reverse our biological age through two kinds of rest. There's the rest that most people are familiar with, which is sleeping. And sadly, most people aren't sleeping well these days. According to Ayurveda, this ancient system of healing from India, sleep is the nursemaid to humanity. And that it's when the body is able to rejuvenate, the mind is able to rejuvenate. And when people are not sleeping soundly at night, they don't get that deep renewal that allows them to reverse their biological age and also be vital and awaken throughout the day. So sleeping is one form of important rest. But the other form of rest, which is not as familiar in the West as it is in the East, is the rest that comes from meditation. And really interesting scientific studies going back to the late 50s and 60s show that when people close their eyes and allow their minds to quiet, their body actually gains a deeper level of rest than is seen even during deep sleep. And it's a really interesting model that we've brought into our thinking. Because if you look at what happens when someone's under stress, there are a number of physiological changes that take place. The heartbeat starts increasing, we start breathing faster, we release stress hormones, we start sweating, and all those are to prepare ourselves to deal with an external threat. When there's actually is an external threat, some wild beast is chasing us, those changes are positive. But when the stress is stuck in rush hour traffic, too high of a telephone bill, too many voicemails to answer, we still activate the physiology of stress, but it doesn't really do us any good, and it actually accelerates aging. Many scientific studies have shown that when we take time to quiet the mind through restful awareness in a meditation technique, the body has almost exactly the opposite physiological changes that occur during stress. So instead of the heart rate speeding up, the heart rate slows down. Instead of the blood pressure rising, the blood pressure comes down. Instead of stress hormones rising, stress hormones fall. And all those changes actually reset the physiological state to one of rejuvenation. So the combination of sleeping soundly at night and taking some time during the day to quiet your mind is an important step toward reversing biological age.
Let me show you how to meditate. Close your eyes again. Close your eyes. Observe your breath as it goes in and it goes out through your nostrils. Don't try to manipulate your breathing, just observe it. And on the in-breath, say to yourself, mentally, say so. And on the out-breath, say to yourself, hum. Therefore, so becomes the vibration of the inhalation, and hum becomes the vibration of the exhalation. So is the vibration of the inhalation, hum is the vibration of the exhalation. And as you do this, you might become aware of certain sounds in the environment, or sensations in the body, or thoughts in the mind. And anytime that happens, just observe the vibration of the breath. So, hum. So is the vibration of the inhalation. Hum is the vibration of the exhalation. And by, your body goes into a state of deep rest and restful awareness. And you do this for about 20 minutes, and then you wait approximately a minute or so, and then you open your eyes. Okay, you can open your eyes now. So what happens when we meditate? There are only a few things that can happen. Either you become aware of, oh, what's that noise? That's a thought. Or you become aware of, what's that sensation? That's a thought. Or you become aware of a thought, and that's a thought. Okay, so those, you become aware of thoughts in your mind, or things that are happening in your body, or things that are happening in your environment. And every time that happens, you gently go back to watching the breath and observing the movement of breath. And every time you breathe in, you say So every time you breathe out, you say hum. And by, there's this shifting of consciousness from thoughts to sounds to sensations to so to hum to breath. And then once in a while, everything stops. And when everything stops, you slip into the space between your thoughts. And at that moment, you have come to a place where there is only the presence of your soul, your spirit. And studies show that just the process of doing this, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down, your adrenaline level goes down, your cortisol, which is a hormone that is not very good. If you have too much of it, it starts affecting your immune system. It goes down. And there are many studies that show that people who meditate regularly, they spontaneously stop smoking cigarettes, spontaneously decrease their alcohol intake, spontaneously start to exercise more, spontaneously start to eat better food without even trying, because their body is renewing itself, and in this renewal it says, I don't want to do all those things that were hurting me before. Meditation has been shown to lower the cost of insurance in people who meditate regularly, but most importantly, there are at least 3 biomarkers of aging that have been studied and have been published, like hearing, vision, and blood pressure, which will start to improve right away. So that's the second kind of deep rest, and that's step 2. Step 2, once again, is deep rest, as in restful sleep, which I spoke to you about a little bit, more to come, and restful awareness, meditation. The opposite of meditation is what we call the fight-flight response, the stress response. The stress response is actually the number one cause of all the epidemics of civilization, like heart attacks, high blood pressure, addictive behavior, frequent infections, and now even cancer. There's increased risk if you're very stressed, because you start to destroy your immune system. The fight-flight response, which means in a threatening situation, I either run or I fight. What you're doing is the opposite. You're going into a deep state of restful awareness. You're allowing your body to renew yourself.
Living in the world is a stressful experience. And it goes back to really pre-civilization days, where on a daily basis we had to acquire adequate food. And in the process of acquiring food, we were also trying to avoid other animals acquiring us as food. And so we developed this very sophisticated reactive mechanism, which Walter Cannon, an American physiologist back in the 30s, called fight or flight response. Fight means if we thought we were going to win the battle, we would fight, and flight meant if we thought we were going to lose a battle, we tried to get out of there as quickly as possible. And even in modern urban society, we activate that response. We don't necessarily show the full expression of it, but heart rate rises when we're under stress, blood pressure rises when we're under stress, our blood gets diverted from our digestive system to the muscles of arms and legs. We produce these stress hormones, all of which are very helpful if we're actually being physically threatened, but sow the seeds for illness and aging if the stress is psychological. So if you look at all the changes that take place during the fight or flight response, they are the origins of the major illnesses. Because during fight or flight, our blood pressure rises, which is good if we're running away from a wild tiger, but if it stays up even when there's no threat, it causes high blood pressure. We activate these stress hormones, which can be good if we're running away from something, but the result of it is a sense of anxiety, which disturbs our sleep. We take blood away from our digestive tract and put them into our arms and legs when we need them, or if we're trying to chase after our own food source. But the consequence of that, if we're not really using that response, is digestive disturbances. Even an interesting response that takes place during fight or flight is our platelets get stickier. Platelets are these little blood cells that rush to the scene when we've been cut. And so whenever we're stressed, these platelets start to get stickier in preparation for the possibility that we're going to get cut or bit. So if we're actually in physical threat, that's a good response. But if the stress is I'm stuck in freeway and I'm trying to get to a meeting, those sticky platelets actually predispose me to having a premature heart attack or a stroke. So if you look at all those changes which happen every day in modern society, they are they are sowing the seeds for the illnesses that plague us. The value of meditation is it tunes the body in the almost opposite direction, in that the stress hormones are reduced, the blood pressure comes down, the heart rate slows, the platelets become less sticky, and the consequence of that is that the body is in a more balanced, centered state, so that we're not constantly preparing ourselves for a threatening world or to have the health consequences of that preparation. All these different states of consciousness have value. So sleeping at night has a certain value. Taking a nap has a certain value. The difference between these states and meditation is that there's actually wakefulness even as the body is relaxing. There's wakefulness but not a lot of thought activity. And it seems as if, from a scientific perspective, that by having the mind awake but having the body relaxed, there's a deeper state of rest. If you look at oxygen consumption or you look at skin resistance, these are measurements of restfulness, it actually turns out that there's a unique pattern that's seen in meditation that's different than sleep. You know, these days, physiologically, I'm a neurologist by training, if you wire up somebody's brain waves and you measure their heart rate and blood pressure and some other parameters, if you're in a different room, you can tell if that person is sleeping or dreaming or awake or drowsy. In that same way, you can tell if they're meditating. There's a brainwave pattern that's unique, which is kind of a synchronized, coherent brainwave pattern. There's a deep level of respiration where the breath really quiets, and that seems to be beneficial physiologically and psychologically. Many studies have shown that people who meditate, they score better on tests for memory, on concentration. It's easier for them to stop habits that are not so useful, like smoking cigarettes or excessive drinking. And it seems to facilitate this reversal of aging process. So it's not really a substitution for good sleeping. It's an additional added benefit that seems to have its own value. I would just encourage people, try it a few times. And it doesn't take long for people to notice that by taking a little bit of time, they actually save time. You know, one of the big excuses, particularly for busy people, is I don't have time to meditate. But everybody knows that when they're stressed and they've got a lot going on, it's when you tend to make mistakes. You forget your keys, you don't remember where you parked your car, you leave things behind, and even though you're in such a hurry, you end up being inefficient. Whereas our experience is if you take time to be quiet and you take time to get centered, which is the value of these restful awareness techniques, these meditation techniques, you end up being much more efficient, not wasting energy, accomplishing the tasks sooner, and actually finding that you're saving time rather than wasting time.
Step 3, nutrition. Now, you know, when you go to the bookstore next time, you'll see that almost always there's a couple of books on the bestseller list that are telling you what's good for you. What's the right food for you? And you must have also noticed that every 2 months that changes. You know, so today it's the, whatever, it's the high protein diet, tomorrow it's the carbohydrate diet, and the next day it is separating proteins from carbohydrates, the next day it's the body type diet, etc., etc. But the fact that it changes so frequently must be telling you something. That, yes, diets do work, but they work for some people some of the time. They don't work for all people all of the time. The best diet for you is the one that your body responds to, that your body naturally wants. Have you ever wondered that the animals in the forest have no idea what the U.S. Surgeon General is saying? The animals in nature have no idea how much, calcium they need or vitamins they need, etc., etc. And animals don't get nutritional deficiencies unless they're in a zoo or something like that, in an artificial environment. Why? Because animals listen to internal cues. And once again, your body is the ultimate and supreme genius that mirrors the wisdom of the universe. Listen to your body, When you listen to your body, you listen to your subconscious mind. And when you listen to your subconscious mind, you listen to that which eavesdrops on the wisdom of the universe.
The human species is the only species that actually has to read books or hear lectures on what to eat. All the other animals seem to have figured this out by themselves. And part of it is we've lost contact with the intelligence of the body. So we rely upon experts, and as anybody knows, almost once a week someone is telling us to eat something different, and it drives people crazy, and we still have more people overweight and sick from nutritionally related illnesses than ever before. So our approach is to go back to what is the body really telling us and follow those natural principles. If we think about that food is the way that we as individuals extract energy and information from our environment, then food should be the way that we provide the health-promoting, age-reversing energy and information that we require. Our experience is that eating should not be a perpetual struggle. Next to breathing, there's nothing more natural than that, and yet we've made it into this very complex, complicated, intellectual process. I often ask people at the Chopra Center when I talk about food, do you think we're supposed to make our nutritional choices based upon scientific information? Do you think nature wired us in such a way that until we knew the nutritional content of a certain food, that nature didn't want us to eat it? And of course the answer is no, that there has to be a built-in natural mechanism for human beings to get nutritionally satisfied. So our experience is people who maintain optimal weights, they don't even think about food except when it's time to eat. They eat what's healthy, they enjoy it, and then they stop thinking about it. And that, to us, is the way to achieve your optimal weight, to get the maximal benefit, to not be spending your whole life around should I or should I not be eating something. It's not any fun to be focused 100% of your day on trying to lose weight.
So everyone, put your hand in your stomach right now. Ask yourself, how hungry am I? And grade your hunger level from 1 if you're famished, and 10 if you're feeling like after you felt after Thanksgiving. Okay? Yuck. You don't even want to think of food. Okay? So when your stomach is distended and full and almost spilling out like a garbage can that's full, that would be a level 10. And if you're really, really, really hungry and famished, you haven't eaten in the last 24 hours, that would be a 1. And if your stomach is full about 2/3, that would be a 5. So anytime your stomach starts to fill up a little more, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at 6, it's a little uncomfortable. 7, you start to feel tired. 8, 9, you start to feel really uncomfortable. And 10, you say, oh my God, why did I eat so much? Okay, 1 is famished, 2 is hungry, could eat, in fact would enjoy. You notice that when you're really hungry, you like to eat and you enjoy it. Okay. So always start eating till you get to a 2. That means you're really hungry. And when you're really hungry, you're going to enjoy your food. One of the things that's really important is that you must enjoy your food. Again, I'll come to that, eating awareness, in a moment. So start eating your food when you're about 2, and then when you get to about 5, ask your body, are you satisfied? Don't ask your mind, because your body might say, I'm satisfied, and the mind might say, no, but I'm going to have the dessert anyway. Okay? So don't ask your mind, ask your body. At level 5, it'll say to you, I'm feeling pretty good. Because you get to level 6, 7, you start to feel a little uncomfortable, a little tired, etc. If you can do just that, eat when you start at 2 and stop when you're about 5, you start to feel very energetic. Your body weight will start to normalize. They say in Ayurveda, it's a given that the volume of your empty stomach is about the size of your fist. Okay? Empty stomach. If I went inside your stomach, the volume is about the size of the fist. And when my stomach is about 2/3 full, which is about a level 5, it's the volume of the food is about 2 cupped hands. So 2 cupped hands, about up to here. Okay? That's 2/3. Just have that image in your mind. So when you put food in your plate, even if you go to the buffet at the Chopra Center and you want to fill up your plate, fill up about this much. Okay, and then at the end of that, ask yourself, how are you feeling? And your body says, I'm feeling really good. Stop. Try this for 6 weeks. And in 6 weeks, you'll see that your weight will begin to normalize. If you just follow the intelligence of your body. Now, here are a few other things that are very important. We call them eating awareness techniques. Eating awareness. Don't eat and speak on the phone at the same time. Don't eat while you're driving. You know, the other day I saw a person who was driving their car. In one hand, they had their cell phone, you know, like this in one ear. In the other way, they were gulping a sandwich and something else I couldn't see. And then they were driving their car at the same time. Now, how do you think that food is going to be digested when you do that? There was a study that was done and reported in the journal Science, where they were feeding rabbits diets that were extremely high in cholesterol. So they found that there was one group of rabbits that didn't get the same degree of high cholesterol level of the hardening of the arteries. And what was the difference between the rabbits that were getting hardening of the arteries and the high levels of cholesterol? The technician who was feeding these rabbits the high cholesterol diet, instead of throwing the food at them, he would pet them and cuddle them and then feed them the same poisonous food. But now, because of that experience of cuddling and petting, because the rabbits felt good inside, the food got metabolized into a different metabolic pathway. So it's not just what you eat, but how you're feeling emotionally when you eat that determines the metabolic pathway of your food. So if you're angry, if you're upset, don't eat. Okay, because no matter what you eat, it'll generate toxicity in your body. Say, I'll settle down. When I'm settled down, I'll eat. You know, in many cultures where eating is a celebration, always a celebration. We have music, we have laughter, we have family getting together, and we're all happy when we're eating, then the food gets metabolized into a very nurturing metabolic pathway. And this all happens through what are called neuropeptides, those molecules of emotion that determine where the food should go. So once again, it's not just what you eat, but how you eat.
Most people don't go to the gas station every Tuesday. They wait until their car tells them that they have a signal that they need more gas. And yet most people eat because it's time to eat, whether or not they're hungry or not. You know, it started when we were young, because if you weren't hungry at 7:30, your mom still wanted you to eat breakfast, because when you got hungry at 9:30, she wouldn't be there to feed you. So we teach people, we teach our kids, we were taught, to pay attention to the clock rather than to our bodies. The other side of that is most people eat however much is on their plate. You know, most people got the message when they were young that there were children starving in China or India, so you had to finish everything on your plate. So we taught people to not listen to the intelligence of their body, to listen to some outside authority. So as people get older, they eat when it's time to eat, they eat as much as on their plate. They're never listening to the signals of their body. And the consequence of that is people overeat, and they don't necessarily eat the right foods or at the right time. So we recommend that you start tuning in. Listening. That's what mind-body medicine really means, is that you start listening to your body, honoring the signals that your body is offering, and then providing your body those things which it really needs to maintain optimal health.
What to eat? If we listen to internal cues, what are internal cues? Are things that our body says, and our body wants to experience. How does our body experience food? Through taste. Okay. So we have these taste buds that give us the experience of bitter foods, of sour foods, of salty foods, of pungent foods, of astringent foods, of foods that give us a sweet aftertaste. If your body can experience all these different tastes, it feels satisfied. But in our culture right now, what we've done is we've created an artificial environment where we emphasize sweet, sour, and salt, French fries, burgers, and ketchup. And if you just give your body the taste of sweet, sour, and salt, then obviously there's going to be imbalance. Taste is the way your body recognizes what's the intelligence in the nutrients out there. Salt, of course, is present in many foods anyway, and we all use salt in our cooking, but it's also present in seaweed and things like that. Green leafy vegetables are usually have some bitter taste in it. So, things like spinach, broccoli, lettuce, anything that's green and leafy has some little bit of bitter taste. Pungent is spicy taste like jalapenos and serrano and mustard and garlic and onions and black pepper and red pepper. Astringent is the peculiar puckering experience that you have in the mouth when you taste green tea, for example, or if you've ever tried pomegranate juice, or even coffee has astringent taste. Beans, legumes have astringent tastes. Sweet is the taste that you get after you eat carbohydrates or poultry or fish. You get a sweet aftertaste. We have sour foods, and sour foods are things like salad dressings, like citrus fruits, like oranges and lemon and so on. And also sometimes yogurt has a little sourness in it. If you give your body the experience of all these 6 tastes, you'll end up getting all the phytonutrients. What are phytonutrients? Phytonutrients are these micronutrients that are derived from the energy of the sun. All the energy on our planet comes from the sun. Your body is made out of that energy. And phytonutrients are the nutrients that are derived from the energy of the sun that gives these 6 tastes to the human taste buds in the physiology. So you don't have to know all the details as long as you know that I'm taking the 6 tastes and my body craves these 6 tastes and my body feels satisfied. You'll also see that your weight will start to normalize just by exposing yourself to the 6 tastes. If you said to yourself, I'm going to satisfy my body, paying attention to my body's intelligence and experiencing the 6 tastes, you will start to feel energy, you'll start to feel vitality, you'll start to feel, oh, my body is normalizing itself, my body is getting to its ideal body weight by itself. Add to that one more thing, the 7 colors of the rainbow. Because what are the 7 colors of the rainbow? They are the different energies of the sun that are contained in the phytonutrients, the phytochemicals in food. So when you're thinking blue, think blueberries. When you're thinking black, think blackberries. Oranges, as in the orange taste. But every food that comes from nature has a color. And if you ingest the 7 colors and the 6 tastes, your body gets everything that it needs.
You measure energy in food by the calories, and you measure the information in food by the nutrients that it carries. And according to this Ayurvedic system, there are 6 primary flavors that if we get those 6 flavors, that's the way nature taught us to get the optimal nutrition. Those flavors are sweet, which refer to things that are rich in energy, like proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. They're sour, which are foods that carry acidity, so like citrus fruits and berries and tomatoes. Salty, which is the taste of the ocean, and every living animal carries the ocean within their blood, so we need a certain amount of salt in the body, although these days we have more of a tendency to get too much rather than not enough. Pungent, which is this flavor of spicy foods, which have powerful antioxidant properties. Bitter, which comes from vegetables, particularly green leafy vegetables, which are rich in micronutrients. And astringent, which are primarily found in beans and legumes and lentils, which are very valuable for the digestive system, plus carry a number of anti-cancer and heart disease preventing natural medicines. So the basic principle is we need all 6 of these flavors in our diet every day. And some of the most interesting scientific studies have shown that if we get a diet in those 6 flavors, we're taking advantage of nature's pharmacies, because the most powerful nutrients are often the most healthful, health-promoting, age-reversing chemicals. So when we eat, say, for example, cherries and tomatoes, we're getting these flavonoids, which have been shown to be rich antioxidants, cancer-preventing, heart disease-preventing. When we eat tomatoes and red peppers and red grapefruit, we're getting lycopenes, which get concentrated in the prostate, in the breast tissue, and the ovarian tissue, and been shown to reduce the risk of cancers. When we get certain types of beans and legumes and lentils, we get these natural types of hormones which have been shown to reduce the risk of prostate cancer, breast cancer, osteoporosis. When we get in the isothiocyanates, which come from broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, they're powerful disease-preventing natural chemicals. And so what we know now is that by following this simple diet of having in foods in all 6 of these categories, we're taking full advantage of nature's pharmacy, which will reduce our needs for man's pharmacy. And it doesn't have to be complicated. If we have all 6 flavors, we'll be completely satisfied. In fact, if you look at the average American diet, it's very rich in primarily sweet and salty, and relatively deficient in the other 4. So if you go to a fast food restaurant and you order a double cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke, the bun is considered to be sweet, the burger is considered to be sweet, the cheese is considered to be sweet, the French fries are sweet and salty, and the Coke is sweet. So you've got a concentration of sweet and salty. You get a little bit of a token sour through the pickle, but you're almost completely missing these other categories of foods. It turns out that these other categories are where all the healing nutrients are. So by expanding the Western diet to include these other flavors, we'll get that natural pharmacy of nature. The other advantage of having these nutrients in our diet, this variety of foods in our diet, is that we feel satisfied without having to overeat. See, your brain knows through millions of years of evolution that those flavors carry the micronutrients that our bodies need to stay healthy. And if you haven't gotten all those flavors in the diet, then your brain keeps sending signals to eat more, eat more, eat more, hoping that you'll get those other categories of foods to satisfy the nutritional needs. Since the average American diet doesn't have those foods, then we just keep eating until we get uncomfortable. So most people stop eating when they're uncomfortable, not when they're really satisfied. But what we find time and again, that when people start following those 6-flavor diet, they naturally can eat before they're stuffed, they lose weight spontaneously, they have the energy they need, they're able to reverse their biological age. Actually, most diets are about restricting, talking about what you shouldn't eat. Our diet is really about expanding, which is if you get in all these 6 flavors, you'll naturally eat less. And because these various flavors create much more delicious food, you'll even be more satisfied. See, the problem is if you get very restrictive in your diet, your body will develop cravings. And whenever your discipline goes down, usually because you're too stressed, you'll make up for all of what you've been craving for the last weeks or months. That's why none of these austere diets ever really work for very long. Our experience is when you eat these 6 flavors, you're completely satisfied at every meal, you're getting well nourished, you naturally reach your optimal weight, and you can do it for a lifetime.
Once again, therefore, coming to nutrition, eat with awareness, listen to your body, gauge your hunger levels, eat when you're emotionally settled, drink lots of water in between, so your hunger and satiety is always alive, and eat the 6 tastes and the 7 colors of the rainbow, and now you're doing something that's totally natural, that human beings evolved to experience this. You'll enjoy food, you'll normalize weight, you'll have lots of energy.
When we see people who are trying to lose weight, and most people who are trying to lose weight have been on 10 diets, and even if they lose weight, they get very frustrated because they gain it back quickly. And all those diets are focused on should nots. Don't eat this, don't eat that. Our experience is when your whole life and your mind is filled up with knots It's as if your body gets tied up in knots, and even if you're losing your weight, there's no happiness there. So what's the point? Our approach is what you can eat. And the more variety, the more expansion, the more different flavors and colors. Colors are actually a really interesting part of a healthy nutritional plan, because the chemistry, the natural chemistry that creates colors, are almost always nutritionally valuable. Unfortunately, the average American diet is pretty much white, beige, and brown. It's potatoes and breads and meats. And by missing out on the red tomatoes and strawberries and red peppers and the orange carrots and cantaloupes and melons and the yellow bananas and millet and yellow peppers and the green broccoli and asparagus and the blueberries and the purple grapes, we're missing all that chemistry which keeps us healthy. So we really encourage people to make their food colorful, make it tasteful, make it a lot of variety. And we find that without a lot of struggle, people reach their optimal weight, they're getting the nutrition that's keeping them healthy, and most importantly, they're actually feeling at the end of a meal that they're completely satisfied. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to put a little bit of attention on it. We believe there is an appropriate use for nutritional supplements, not as substitutes for healthy nutrition, but really as complementary to nutritional supplements. Unfortunately, there's so much confusion these days that people change and take something based upon having read an article or a friend recommending it or the latest multi-level marketing effort. And when I see people in my office almost every day, people come in with shopping bags full of bottles of nutritional supplements. And usually as I look them over, I come to the conclusion that these can be of some value if instead of taking them, they did curls with them every day, then they'd be getting some exercise from them. But having said that, there's plenty of evidence now that shows that even with a great diet, there are certain levels of nutrients that are difficult to achieve through food. And by getting in optimal levels of antioxidants, vitamins A, beta-carotene, C, and E, optimum levels of some of the B vitamins, that you can reduce the risks for a number of illnesses and slow the aging process. So we think it doesn't have to be that complicated. We believe that people should take a high-potency multiple vitamin that has an adequate but not excessive dosages of all the known nutrients. We think that particularly women, and now increasingly it's becoming clear that both men and women should take a calcium and vitamin D supplement. We're learning more and more every day that vitamin D, in addition to helping maintain strong bones, seems to have an anti-cancer effect. And we also think that there is a core base of nutritional herbs that provide a rejuvenative and an anti-aging effect. And so we think it shouldn't be that complicated. People shouldn't be spending hours a week analyzing vitamins and minerals. They should eat healthy, they should take a good basic supplement, and then they should enjoy their lives.
Because of the stressful environment that we live in, and because lots of us, most of the time, do not ingest the 6 tastes and the 7 colors, and because as we grow older, our stomachs become a little stomach lining becomes a little thicker, that there's less absorption of these nutrients, the micronutrients, it's actually not a bad idea to take a minimal amount of what we call complements. Not supplements, complements. We're just complementing what comes in food with a few additional micronutrients, like maybe a good multivitamin a day, making sure that we're getting all the regular intake of vitamins, we're getting all the regular intake of minerals, because many scientific studies now show that, if you take enough folic acid, like if you're getting 800 micrograms of folic acid, that has a big effect on, decreasing your incidence of heart disease through a certain mechanism. It decreases homocysteine levels, which is not good for you. And it shouldn't be too much. Don't overdose your body with all these nutritional supplements, because in the end you'll end up maybe even hurting yourself, because if you overdose yourself on something that you don't need, your body doesn't know how to respond to it. So we'll call that step 4, the judicious and intelligent use of micronutrients, or what we call nutritional complements.
One of my important roles as medical director of the Chopra Center is to be evaluating what's in the best interest of our patients' health. And in this role, I'm continuously being exposed to the newest recommendations from my patients and from people who are developing and providing these products. And so I take my responsibility seriously to evaluate what's the scientific basis of these claims that are being made. And most of the time, it's mostly gray. I mean, the ideal supplement would be something that's been scientifically validated to be of tremendous benefit at very low cost with almost no risk, and something that can help to reverse aging. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of things that fit that category. Most of them show some potential benefit. And if somebody took everything that might be of benefit, they probably wouldn't have any room in their stomach left for food. So it's our job, it's our role to really filter through that and find those things which are really have the most scientific basis and also have enough of a history so that we're not going to find out a year from now or 5 years from now that we have to pay a significant price for that benefit. So we have 2 criteria. One is that whatever we recommend has good scientific validity to it, and the other is that it's been around for a while, and preferably not just for a few years, but for hundreds or thousands of years, which is why we like particularly those things which have been in the traditional healing systems from India, China, Tibet, Native American culture, and then have also received some significant scientific validity. Then we feel that we have the wisdom of the ages with the science of contemporary times to create the optimal benefits to people's health.